The School Beneath Crystal Lake. A Tennessee Horror Story, United States. It was the last Saturday of summer break in Millbrook, Tennessee. The kind of day where the air smells like cut grass and river water, and everything feels like it will last forever. Three best friends, Maya, Brianna, and Cassidy, had been coming to Crystal Lake since they were 7 years old. They knew every rock, every current, every shallow spot, and every deep one. Water wave. Or so they thought. Okay, seriously, we have to go, Maya said, pushing wet hair out of her face and wading toward the bank. I'm literally turning into a prune. And I'm cold. Cold face. We just got here. Brianna called from the middle of the lake. Come back. The water is perfect right now, and school starts Monday. This is our last free day, faced with steam from nose. Bree is right. Cassidy agreed, floating on her back with her eyes closed and her arms spread wide. We haven't all been here together since June. Nobody is going anywhere until I say so. Smiling face with smiling eyes. Maya laughed and waded back in. Brianna immediately grabbed her shoulders and dunked her. Brianna, you were standing too close, and I had no choice. Faced with tears of joy. The three of them had been friends since second grade. 8 years. They had the kind of friendship that doesn't need to be talked about because it's simply a fact of life, like gravity or the sun coming up. They finished each other's sentences. They knew each other's food orders. They could communicate entire conversations with a single look across a classroom. Broken heart. Cassidy had been new to Millbrook the previous year, transferred from a school 2 counties over after her parents moved. But within weeks, she had slid into Maya and Brianna's friendship so naturally that it seemed impossible she hadn't always been there. Neither Maya nor Brianna had ever asked where exactly Cassidy's family had moved from, or where she lived now. She was just Cassidy. That was enough. That was the first thing they would later realize they should have wondered about. Skull. They were laughing about something. Brianna had just done a terrible impression of their math teacher, when Cassidy suddenly went quiet, anxious face with sweat. Did you hear that? Hear what? Maya looked around. The lake was calm. The trees at the bank were still. A bird called somewhere in the distance and then stopped. Something from below the water, Cassidy said. She was looking straight down into the lake beneath her feet. Her expression had changed into something Maya couldn't quite read. Like a sound coming up through the water. Like a bell. Cassidy, it's a lake, Brianna said. Lakes don't have bells. I know what I heard. Fearful face. Then something grabbed Cassidy's foot. She didn't scream. She made a sound that was smaller and more frightening than a scream. A sharp cut-off gasp. And then she went under. Fast. Too fast. Like something had yanked her from below with real force and real intention. Face screaming in fear. 1 second she was there. The next, the surface of Crystal Lake was smooth and unbroken as if Cassidy had never existed at all. Skull. Cassidy. Maya lunged toward where Cassidy had been standing. The water there was cold. Suddenly, sharply, impossibly cold. Like reaching into a freezer. Cassidy, where are you? Face screaming in fear. Brianna was already diving under. She came up immediately. I can't see anything. The water it goes dark really fast down there. I couldn't see her. Cassidy, this isn't funny, Maya screamed across the lake. Her voice echoed off the trees and came back to her. Cassidy, come up right now. Fearful face. But Cassidy didn't come up. The water that had been warm and still and summer perfect was now cold in every direction. The small waves that had been barely moving were suddenly choppy and wrong. The sky above them looked the same. The trees looked the same. But something had changed in the quality of the air, something fundamental, and both girls felt it in the same instant without being able to name it. Someone is doing this, Maya said. She was waist deep in the water and turning in circles looking for a sign. Someone is in this water with us. Cassidy is playing a prank, anxious face with sweat. Maya, Brianna's voice was very flat and very quiet. Cassidy doesn't play pranks. In a whole year, I have never once seen Cassidy play a prank on anyone. Maya stopped turning. She knew that was true. Skull. They were still searching, calling Cassidy's name, diving under, checking the banks, when a voice came from the path above the lake. What are you two doing in there? Get out of that water right now. Woman teacher. It was Ms. Patterson, their 7th grade English teacher, and also Brianna's mother, who had the habit of appearing at inconvenient moments with the particular authority of someone who is simultaneously your teacher and your friend's parent. She was standing at the bank with a paper bag of groceries and an expression of absolute zero tolerance. "Miss Patterson, we can't find Cassidy," she went under, and Maya started. "Out. Now. Both of you." I will not say it again, faced with steam from nose. The expression on Ms. Patterson's face was the kind that doesn't negotiate. Both girls came out of the water. "You two are out here swimming unsupervised while you should be getting ready for school next week. And honestly, the amount of times I have to." Ms. Patterson was already walking. "Brianna, you're coming with me. I need to talk to you about your reading assignment." "But Mom, Cassidy." "Maya, can you get home on your own?" "Yes, but," face screaming in fear. "Good. Brianna, with me. Now." Brianna looked back at Maya with wide, desperate eyes. Maya mouthed, "Go? I'll stay and look." Brianna nodded and followed her mother up the path. "Let's go." Maya sat on the bank alone. The lake was quiet. Too quiet. "Cassidy," she said. Not a shout this time. Quietly. The way you talk when you're not sure what you're talking to. "Cassidy, I know you're in there. I'm not leaving. I don't care how long it takes. You came into our lives from nowhere and became our best friend, and I am not just going home and pretending this didn't happen." She sat there for 20 minutes. Nothing. Then she stood up. "I'm coming in," she said. "Not to Cassidy. To the lake. I'm coming in, and I'm going to find her, and we're going to leave together. Both of us." She walked to the edge of the bank and jumped. "Let's go." The cold hit her like a wall. Not the cold from before, sharper, more intentional. Like the water itself was pushing back. Like something was saying you shouldn't be here, and she was saying I know and going anyway. Cold face. She dove down. Down further than the lake should have gone. Down past where the light from the surface stopped making sense. Down past where any lake she had ever swum in should have had a bottom. Down. And then, something changed. Face screaming in fear. The pressure disappeared. The cold disappeared. She was still submerged. She could feel water around her, but she could breathe. Actually breathe. She inhaled, and the air was cool and slightly damp, like a basement in summer. And she was breathing it in, and it was working. She was standing on a floor, and in front of her was a school. It looked exactly like Millbrook Middle School. The same red brick. The same double glass doors at the entrance. The same banner above the doors that said Pride and Excellence. The same cracked concrete walkway leading up to the entrance. Except it was underwater, and the windows were dark, and the silence around it was the particular silence of places that have been holding something in for a very long time. "Let's go." Maya said Cassidy's name once. Her voice came out flat and muffled the way voices sound in places where sound doesn't work right. Then the bell rang. From inside the school, one long, clear tone that vibrated through the floor beneath her feet. An old man in a gray uniform appeared from around the side of the building. A custodian. He looked at Maya without surprise and without any particular expression at all and walked toward her and past her, and when she turned he was behind her and she felt his hand close around her wrist, and she tried to pull away and couldn't. Fearful face. He brought her inside, through the dark glass doors, down a corridor that smelled like chalk and old paper and something underneath those things that she didn't have a name for, into a classroom at the end of the hall. He closed the door from the outside. She heard a lock turn. "Let's go." The room was empty except for desks. The same desks as upstairs. The same posters on the walls. But the windows didn't show anything outside. Just black. The same black as the water she had come through, like the windows were painted over with night. Maya sat in one of the desks because there was nowhere else to sit, and because her legs weren't working very well. "Cassidy," she said to the empty room. "If you can hear me, I need you to make a sound." Nothing. Anxious face with sweat. Brianna came through the door 40 minutes later. Maya nearly cried when she saw her. "You came back. I told my mom I forgot something at the lake." Brianna sat in the desk next to Maya. She was dripping wet and breathing hard and looking around the room with the expression of someone who has already passed through the worst of their panic and come out the other side into something that felt almost like calm. Also, she doesn't know I dove into a lake by myself, so let's not discuss that part. Faced with steam from nose. How did you even find this place? I followed you. Watched you jump in from the path. Decided if you were going in, I was going in. Brianna looked at the black windows. Where is Cassidy? Fearful face. I don't know. Somewhere in this building. They sat together in the locked room for 2 days. Skull. 2 days of dark windows and locked doors, and the sound of things moving in the corridor outside that neither of them wanted to look at too closely. 2 days of no food and no water. The irony of being surrounded by water and having none to drink not lost on either of them. 2 days of trying the door every few hours and finding it locked, and then trying it again anyway. Anxious face with sweat. Maya's head was pounding. She sat there for 20 minutes. Nothing. Then she stood up. I'm coming in, she said. Not to Cassidy. To the lake. I'm coming in, and I'm going to find her, and we're going to leave together. Both of us. She walked to the edge of the bank and jumped. Skull. The cold hit her like a wall. Not the cold from before, sharper, more intentional. Like the water itself was pushing back. Like something was saying you shouldn't be here, and she was saying I know and going anyway. Cold face. She dove down. Down further than the lake should have gone. Down past where the light from the surface stopped making sense. Down past where any lake she had ever swum in should have had a bottom. Down. And then, something changed. Face screaming in fear. The pressure disappeared. The cold disappeared. She was still submerged. She could feel water around her, but she could breathe. Actually breathe. She inhaled, and the air was cool and slightly damp, like a basement in summer, and she was breathing it in, and it was working. She was standing on a floor, and in front of her was a school. It looked exactly like Millbrook Middle School. The same red brick. The same double glass doors at the entrance. The same banner above the doors that said Pride and Excellence. The same cracked concrete walkway leading up to the entrance. Except it was underwater, and the windows were dark, and the silence around it was the particular silence of places that have been holding something in for a very long time. Skull. Maya said Cassidy's name once. Her voice came out flat and muffled the way voices sound in places where sound doesn't work right. Then the bell rang. From inside the school, one long, clear tone that vibrated through the floor beneath her feet. An old man in a gray uniform appeared from around the side of the building. A custodian. He looked at Maya without surprise and without any particular expression at all and walked toward her and past her, and when she turned he was behind her and she felt his hand close around her. Cannot take what is not given, she said. You never could. You never will. The cold in the room became absolute. The kind of cold that is not a temperature but a condition. Edward pressed himself against the pillar and felt it in his bones and in his blood and in the center of his chest where the pressure had never fully left since the first night. I am sorry, Edward said. He had never said those words to anyone in his life. They came out of him now the way something comes out that has been held in by force and is finally released. I am sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry. Isabella looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, It is not me you need to answer to. She turned and walked through the wall. Edward sat on the floor of his throne room until morning. His guards found him there at dawn, the king of Blackstone sitting on the cold stone floor with his back against a pillar and his face the color of ash and his hands still shaking slightly. He abdicated his throne 6 weeks later. He gave no public reason. He left Blackstone Castle and traveled north and eventually entered a monastery in the mountains where he lived for the remaining 23 years of his life in a small stone cell and spoke to almost no one and prayed every day without exception. He never saw Isabella again after that night on the throne room floor. But sometimes in the deep cold of the mountain winters, he would wake at midnight and lie in his small cell and feel the cold settle over him from nowhere, and he would close his eyes and lie still and breathe and wait, and eventually the cold would lift and morning would come. He always said sorry before it lifted. Every single time. The end ghost. the room and sat there. Maya stepped back. Brianna stepped forward. What does that mean? Brianna said, very carefully. Fearful face. Cassidy set down her chalk. She looked at them the way teachers look at students they are about to explain something difficult to. Patient. Organized. Slightly sad. You two never asked about me, she said. In a whole year of friendship, you never asked where I lived, where my family was, what my history was. You just accepted me because I was useful and fun and good at being your friend. And I was very, very good at it. I practiced. Cassidy, what are you talking about? Maya's voice was barely there. My name is not Cassidy. The girl who had been Cassidy clasped her hands in front of her. My name was Cassandra Webb. I was 17 years old. I grew up in Millbrook. I was the first person in my family to graduate high school. I worked 3 jobs through college. Everything I saved, every dollar, I was going to use to open a school. A real school. For kids in this county who couldn't afford the programs they needed. Crying face. The room was completely silent. The not alive students in the desks were perfectly still. I was driving home with the money in a bag on the passenger seat. 3 men ran me off Miller Road. They took the bag. When I tried to stop them, she paused. They put me in Crystal Lake. I was 23 years old, broken heart. Maya's eyes were burning. Cassandra, I didn't give up, Cassandra continued. Her voice was steady, but it cost her something. Even after, I built the school I had always wanted. Down here, I teach the ones who end up here, who come through that lake and don't go back. I give them the education they were supposed to have. Ghost. She looked at the students in the desks. For a moment, her eyes were not frightening at all. They were just sad. But I needed teachers, she said. Real teachers. Living ones. So I could teach the living curriculum too. So I built the relationship. Learned everything about you. Became exactly what you needed in a friend. And when the time was right, she gestured at the classroom around them. Here you are, fearful face. Brianna spoke first. Her voice was very quiet and very direct. Cassandra, you wanted to be a teacher. I am a teacher. Then you know that what you just described isn't teaching, Brianna said. You trapped us. You deceived us. You used a year of fake friendship as a tool to imprison 2 people. Is that really the school you wanted to open? Broken heart. Cassandra said nothing. You said you wanted to teach kids who couldn't afford the opportunities they deserved, Maya said. You wanted to give people something. That was your dream. Keeping us here against our will. That's not giving anything to anyone. That's just taking. That's what those men did to you, crying face. The silence in the underwater classroom was absolute. Something moved across Cassandra's face. Not anger. Not the cold control she had been maintaining. Something older and more human and much more painful. Broken heart. I was so angry, she said. The steadiness in her voice was gone. For so long, I did everything right. Everything. I worked for every single thing I had, and they took it in 30 seconds. And nothing happened to them. Nobody came. Nobody cared. And I was down here and I was so. She stopped. Her hands, which had been clasped neatly in front of her, were pressed flat against the desk now. Pressed down, like she needed the weight of something real. I lost myself, she said. I got so angry that I stopped being who I was, and I didn't even notice it happening. Crying face. Maya crossed the room. She sat in the student's desk directly in front of Cassandra's teacher's desk, like she was in class. Then find your way back, Maya said. You said you wanted to build something. You wanted to give people something. You built all of this. She looked around at the impossible underwater school with its chalk-smelling corridors and its 2 attentive students and its black-windowed classrooms. That's real. That's you. That's the person who worked 3 jobs and saved every dollar. She's still here, broken heart. Cassandra Webb, who had been Cassidy for a year, who had been 23 years old when she died, and some much older number now, looked at 2 13-year-old girls who had jumped into a lake to find her and sat in a locked room for 2 days rather than give up, and said nothing for a very long time. Then she said, I'm sorry for what I did to you, for the year of pretending. I thought it was a means to an end. I thought the end justified it. It didn't, Brianna said. Simply, without cruelty. I know, crying face. Cassandra stood up from behind the desk. The classroom around them shifted. The black windows went gray, then lighter. The not-alive students turned toward the windows the way real students turn toward windows when the sun comes out. Go home, Cassandra said. Both of you. Go home and build something real. Both of you. I know what you're capable of because I watched you for a year and I was not wrong about that part. Go build the things you are meant to build. What about you? Maya asked. Cassandra looked around the school she had built at the bottom of Crystal Lake. At the students. At the blackboard where she had been writing. I have work to do, she said quietly. Real work. That was always the point. Broken heart. The light in the room blazed white. Maya and Brianna opened their eyes on the bank of Crystal Lake. Morning. Tennessee's summer morning with the sun just up and the lake reflecting pink and gold and the trees perfectly still. Sunrise. They sat next to each other on the bank for a while without speaking. The lake in front of them was just a lake. Just water. Just surface and depth and the ordinary mystery of water. Do you think she's okay? Brianna asked. I think she's doing what she always wanted to do, Maya said, smiling face with smiling eyes. They sat there a little longer. Then Brianna said, we should probably get home before my mom realizes I snuck out. Yeah. Maya stood up, brushed off her jeans. Bree. Yeah. I'm glad you came back. When you didn't have to. Broken heart. Brianna looked at her. You would have done the same. I know, Maya said. That's why I'm glad. Smiling face with smiling eyes. They walked home through the Tennessee morning without looking back. Behind them, Crystal Lake was quiet and still and deep and exactly what it had always been. But somewhere beneath the surface, in a school built by stubbornness and grief and love and a dream that refused to stay dead, a bell rang. And class began. Dove. The end ghost.